Ken Rosenthal, who joins us here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Ken?
I'm good, Rich. How are you?
I'm appreciative of you calling in. Thanks for doing that. What is up with Bryce Harper these days? What do you have for me on that front?
I guess I should tell you something about Steven Strasburg before we even talk about
What do you have for me, Ken?
Because the Nationals just placed Strasburg on the DL with right elbow soreness.
Oh, my gosh.
Now, he's had a few bad starts in a row. Dusty Baker had insisted he was healthy. So this is a significant development. They may be simply trying to get him a breather, which happens now in this game. We've seen that with different pitchers. But at the same time, it's not good. Strasburg was supposed to pitch tonight. Instead, they will use A.J. Cole, who's one of their better younger guys. Now, as for Harper, he's been hot the last week, and he still seems to be having issues with his neck, and that is something that had bothered him for quite some time. I don't know that that explains his entire struggles for the month or so, or 2 months or so, that he was slumping, but it had something to do with it, and now they gave him some time off. He seems to have snapped back to it. So that's where he is right now.
So, wow, Strasburg for 15 days. So I guess since this news is obviously so fresh, Ken, I mean, it sounds like a true 15-dayer, missing 2-3 starts, and then he'll be back for the stretch run in September?
Well, I'm sure that's their plan. But, Rich, you know this. You never know when a guy goes on the DL. And I'm not trying to be an alarmist here, but they say 15 days. Well, they said 3 days ago this guy was perfectly healthy. So I'll believe he's on the mound when I see him on the mound again. That's kind of how I approach injuries with major league teams.
So you've got that with the Nationals, and then the Dodgers remarkably have turned the Jets on with Kershaw out. Obviously, it helps to have Kershaw in. What can you tell us about Kershaw's availability and readiness, Ken?
It sounds like he's coming along. Now, he's played catch a few times. He's thrown a few times. That's encouraging. And they're pointing toward mid to late September. And, hey, if he can do it, great. Makes him that much better. At the same time, I'm skeptical here, too, simply because it's a back. And backs are tricky. And there was a point really early in his recovery when it seemed like he was making progress, and then he had a setback. So, again, until you see him on the mound, you don't know that for sure he's going to be there. The team itself has done a remarkable job. And offensively, they've been better, clearly, in this run that they've had without Kershaw. And they patch the rotation together as best they can. So they don't have great options. They keep running through more. But it seems like they get enough, and they're hitting enough. And there's another thing going on with them that's pretty interesting. The vibe of the team is much better than it's been in the last couple of years. Now, people are going to draw the connection with Puig, but it started even before that. And it just seems like they've got a grittier edge to them. And I know that doesn't always translate to performance, and maybe it's all sports writer talk, but that seems to be the feeling among the club. Guys like Utley and even Seager on the younger side, and Justin Turner, they come to play, they play hard, and they've established an ethic. And that is also part of the story with them.
And so, it would be really delicious. I know that they're in front, half game in front of San Francisco. And, St. Louis, as always, right there in the mix. But having Miami and the Dodgers play a wild card series, right, with Mattingly in one dugout and the Dodgers in the other with Dave Roberts, that would be pretty interesting to see come October, would you say, Ken?
That would be interesting to see a one-game winner. Well, wild card take all, I guess, for right to advance. And the Marlins, Dan, are really interesting in that I thought they were kind of reeling a little bit. And they had lost Stanton. Their rotations had some injuries as well. Adam Conley went down. And then this weekend, they swept the Pirates. A really good series. David Phelps pitched really well on Saturday. Urena yesterday pitched well. These are kind of unheralded guys as far as when the season started with their rotation. And Mattingly deserves credit for keeping them going. With the Gordon suspension, with the Stanton injury, with the various things that happened during the course of a baseball season. And I am quite certain he would like nothing more than to face the Dodgers in a one-game playoff with Jose Fernandez pitching. That would be good.
Ken Rosenthal right here on the Rich Eisen Show. In the American League, Kansas City back from the dead, 3.5 out in the wild card. Now, there are 3 teams in front of them just to get to that wild card one-gamer. What's happened with Kansas City where suddenly they look like the team that we've seen in recent years, Ken?
Dan Duffy has happened. That's one thing, Rich. And he's emerged surprisingly, as an ace. This is a guy who kind of struggled to find himself, got better in the bullpen, and now in the rotation has really done an excellent job. Ian Kennedy pitching much better as well. So that's two guys at the top really performing at a high level. Alex Gordon has started hitting. That's been a big thing for them. He's a huge part of that team, as you know. And overall, let's face it, this is a team that has gone to the last two World Series. They have an innate sense of what it takes to win. Now, they had that sense for the first 4 months of the season. Didn't really go too well for them. But for whatever reason, they've turned it on here. And I don't know that you can rule them out. You're right. The standings are stacked. The wild card standings are quite crowded. But at the same time, if they can keep it going, I sort of like where they are right now. And that's even without Moustakas and all the other things that have befallen them this year. But there's something about them, right? We've seen this for a couple of years now, and you cannot dismiss them one bit.
Yeah, there's 5 teams within 4 games of the wild card. Seattle, Detroit, Houston, Kansas City, even the Yankees are in that mix. Which one of those teams you think can crash the party of Toronto, Boston, and or Baltimore and keep one of them home for the postseason? Which one do you think?
Well, the team I'm worried about most as far as the teams at the top is Baltimore, clearly. And beyond that, Seattle is really interesting. I don't know if they're going to hold up, but they're a pretty good club, pretty well balanced. They've got Cano, they've got Cruz, they've got King Felix. And, Rich, I don't trust them the way I trust the Royals because, of course, the track record is not their success. But they're talented. They're feeling it a little bit now. They've gotten great work out of the young closer, Diaz. I'm not saying that they're going to be the team, but I'm enjoying watching them, put it that way. It's been kind of intriguing to see what they've accomplished.
What's going on in the Oakland clubhouse, Ken? What's going on with Valencia, Billy Butler?
Well, that story was broken yesterday by Susan Slusser of the San Francisco Chronicle, and the way she reported it, there was some dispute in the clubhouse about equipment, and Valencia and Butler, who had been teammates in Kansas City, got into it. Both those guys have fairly strong personalities, and these things do happen during the course of a season. It's not that unusual. It's more unusual when reporters find out about them. And in this case, Susan did a great job of reporting it. Where it goes from here, I'm not sure. Butler really has no place on that team. And Butler is a right-handed DH who doesn't hit like he should or the way he used to. Valencia has been an interesting guy, a volatile player throughout his career, but some players kind of came to his support.
Yeah, Hosmer, I saw it.
Including Eric Hosmer.
Yeah, I saw that.
So where this goes, I doubt it goes anywhere, but it's always interesting to hear these things. And think about it, Rich, and you know this. They're over 162 games, 6 months. Guys are together all
you're
10,
right.
12 hours a day. Stuff's going to happen from time to time. They're going to wear on each other's nerves, especially in the middle of August, especially on a losing club, and that's probably part of what happened here.
Last one for you, Ken. Where's Papelbon going to wind up between now and maybe September 1? Where do you think that's going to happen?
I'm not sure. I'm a little surprised he hasn't signed already. I don't know exactly what's going on there. Any number of teams could use bullpen help. Obviously, his preference is to close. We know that. If he's willing to accept the setup role with a contending type team, I'm sure that team would want him. But at the same time, he's not what he used to be. And the fact that he hasn't signed already is a bit of a red flag to me. I don't know what's going on there, to be perfectly honest.
Ken, I appreciate the knowledge and the honesty, and as always, your work. I really enjoy watching it. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Rich. Take care.
You bet. That's Ken Rosenthal.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.